Welcome back into the North Bay Face-Off, brought to you by Bay Area Combat and Suncoast Awning. And by the way, guys, make sure you check out Suncoast Awning. That is our sponsor for all your shade system needs, awnings, all that kind of stuff, residential and commercial, all over the greater Bay Area, Monterey, Santa Rosa counties. There's 2 stores, one in Santa Cruz and one right here in Martinez, which is where we tape the show at. But what we're here to talk about is North Bay Face-Off, which is coming your way, Bay Area Combat, June 22nd. It is Napa Valley Expo. We come back to Napa. 16 fights, Steve Barnett, as I'm joined by the promoter here and matchmaker, Steve Barnett, and, of course, Deborah Farrellito in the building, as always. 4 title fights, Steve. You've done a great job putting this card together, man.
It's kind of scary, too, because we've had so many other fights going on at the same month. It's like we got, 5 fights this month in June?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a definite challenge.
You know, I got to tell you, so I work with a lot of companies, obviously. We had a couple companies this month, actually, that canceled their events because there were so many events going on.
Yeah.
But that actually is a testament to how good of a matchmaker you are, because your fights didn't really fall off. You were able to, to have 16 fights in a month with this many events is huge.
Yeah, I was pulling my hair out. It's it's a little thin anyways, but it's I was pulling my hair out all the way through. So I was able to lock in some really good fights. I've had a couple fallouts, though. Let's say Anthony Graus straight just fell off the face of the earth, so I have to replace him with another.
When you say fell off the face of the earth, he just won't return your phone calls?
No, even worse. He this is the second time he actually basically fell through.
Right. I remember the last time you weren't too happy.
Yeah. So this is going to be the second time, and he said he claims the injury, broken nose or something to that effect. Finances, just I don't know. I can't call it. I think I smell some cold feet.
It happens, man, and you get that a lot. But Garon's had a lot of fights, and he's been fighting for quite a while, so it's weird. But sometimes, guys, they get either they get tired of losing. Not saying he's lost. I haven't looked at his record in a while, but they could get tired of losing, or maybe they got hurt. They got a little gun shy.
Yeah.
Kind of like a batter in the MLB. You get hit by a couple pitches, and now you're not really crowding the plate anymore. Maybe they're not in too big of a hurry to get back in the cage, or maybe they're just scared.
Yeah, or I hope hopefully he's seeking out a really good training camp to go, to actually go train with the team.
Yeah.
He kind of trains himself, Team Brute. So maybe that's what's going on. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, guys, we are going to dive into this card here in a minute and talk about some of these fights, some of these young fighters that are making their debuts, Carly Lombardo out of Salguera and a couple other people as well. But if you guys want tickets to this fight, don't forget it is June 22nd, 5 p.m. start time. Go to bayareacombat.com. It's the best place to get tickets. There will be tickets available at the door, but you don't really want to take that chance. You want to go to bayareacombat.com and grab those tickets. So, Steve, 16 fights. We're going to get into the title fights. And, of course, we got a lot of familiar faces, guys that always grace the Bay Area Combat cage. But let's talk about this first fight that you put together. And I apologize to some of these fighters. Listen, we got a lot of new fighters on here, and that's always a good thing because we get to see these young, hungry kids come out and really put on a show. First fight is going to be Arturo Burgos taking on William Varner, and that is going to be in the 155 division, lightweights. Arturo Burgos coming out of the El Nino Training Center, and if he's coming out on, as we always say, if he's coming out of El Nino, he's training with Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields, Leslie Smith, all these just beasts over there. Yeah. So we know he's got a lot of good training partners, and he's going to be taking on William Varner, 24 years old, Team Brute. Tell us how that match came together.
Well, it's William Varner's. He was Anthony Graus' guy. And they hit me up. He says he's got a couple of years of jiu-jitsu, some wrestling, some kickboxing, and stuff like that. And I know, Arturo, he's going to have some jiu-jitsu and some striking too, because they got a good striking coach over at El Nino. I'm expecting 2 guys out there slugging it out, wrestling around, beating each other up. I think it's a great way to start out the night, to be honest with you, the way I'd match this one up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's crazy because in Bay Area Combat, listen, every weight class is stacked, but you look at 135, 145, 155, we just got some animals that are fighting for Bay Area Combat. Yeah. So for these guys to be coming in here, first couple fights, I think Burgos has had one, and this is the debut of Varner, but once they start working their way up, they're looking at monsters,
right.
The Buenos and the Julius Wrights. And so, you're stepping into a lion's den when you come to Bay Area Combat in the lightweight division.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, though, you've got 2 or 3 fights in, and experience-wise, you could fight anybody out there in the 155 division.
Right.
If you have the experience, you have the fights. No shin pads and 3-minute rounds.
Right.
So the door's open to some crazy fighters.
And you talk about that so people understand it, because I know we got viewers not just in California but all over that have family members in different states and so forth. In camo in California, guys, if you've had 3 fights or less, and your opponent's had 3 fights or less, you got to wear shin guards when you fight. if you've had 3 fights or more and you both agree, I believe is how it works. Like
Yes.
the more experience you have, then you don't have to have the shin guards, and the rules change a little bit. So that's kind of how camo works out here in California.
Yeah, so they actually label it as a novice fighter, and that's
Right.
how they kind of, and then they have more experience as many fights they go. And
Absolutely.
I guess they consider as expert fighters.
Yeah. So that'll be a good show opening up, a good fight opening up the show on June 22nd. Let's talk about Austin Brown. Now, I notice he does not have an opponent here. Is he in limbo right now?
So Brett, he's actually, I just sent his picture in today, so my bad. I try to help out the fighters as much as I can, send in paperwork for them, do whatever I can do.
And this is going to be Chandler, Brett Chandler?
Yes, so
Okay.
he's out of one of my friends' gym out at John Santos. John Santos is Joe Kropscott's coach.
Team Santos, beastie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some tough guys. Austin Brown's actually one of my guys.
Okay. Napa Valley.
Don't get me wrong, we're all friends here, so it's kind of hard fighting our guys against each other, but it's just an amateur fight. It's all good for good fun.
I want to point out too that when you match your fighters, you make it fair. Like there's a lot of promoters and matchmakers. You guys are seeing my dirty fingernails. I'm in thug mode, by the way. I'm middle-aged thug mode right now for Bay Area Combat today. When you match these fighters, you're not really trying to put stepping stones in there for your fighters and trying to balloon up their records. You're actually giving these guys fights.
Hard fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way it's got to be.
I sat down and talked with John Santos about this matchup pretty in depth, because we wanted to give them both a good match.
Yeah.
Because their lack of skill, you have to, kind of like make sure that you have the same lack of skill, because that actually has the makings of a fight.
And that's not disrespectful. That's just in general. And when he says skill, he means experience, basically.
Yes.
Lack of experience. You haven't. Who knows? These guys could come out and just be fucking monsters.
Yeah.
But we don't know yet, so we gotta make it fair. Yeah.
So you get two young guys that are fresh off the mat coming out for their first time. It's all about passion.
Yeah.
And I love that shit.
So that'll be a good fight. Look at that one, guys. Austin Brown, Brett Chandler. But moving on to fight number 3. Now, we're going to give you guys a little change in the scheduling here. But for now, fight number 3 is going to be Sal Cuevas and Jihad Mohammed. But when you actually get to the show, June 22nd, you'll see that this fight is going to be moved to match number 4. And that's a behind-the-scenes thing that we don't need to get into. But we'll talk about this fight. Sal Cuevas, he is 0-1, 30 years old, stellar MMA. And he's going to be taking on Jihad Mohammed, who's showing as 0-0 and a Dragon House fighter, but I guess I'm understanding that he's had a couple of fights.
So just so you know, Salvador's actually a Team Santos guy.
Okay.
So and John put him on the card the other day. He filled in for one of his teammates that was sick and couldn't do it. So Jihad.
All right, Steve, I got to yell at you. Move the mic a little closer in front of you. Just move the mic, then you don't have to. No, other way.
This way?
There you go.
Yeah.
See, now people can hear you. People want to hear your voice, man. You got that sexy voice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey there, people.
Yeah.
How's that?
Nobody wants to struggle to hear your old ass. Come on, let's go. So tell us a little bit more about Sal.
So Salvador's, he's a tough guy. I had the opportunity to go down and wrestle with him the other night. He's a strong kid. I mean, he's got the makings of another Michael Bueno.
Yeah.
Joe Kraus. He's got some really good guys to train with. So he's got to get good, or else he's not going to be.
And I guess Mohammed, coming out of Dragon House, he's only 20 years old, so he's got a 10-year younger difference there, 155 pounds, both of them. But talk to me a little bit about Mohammed. You said he's had 2 fights that I guess aren't recorded, or
yes, they're unsanctioned fights. So there's no telling who they were. So it's a roll of the dice.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that this is a really good matchup, because Santos produces some really tough guys. I'll match them guys up against anybody.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you have a good camp like a Team Santos or a Smash Fighter or an El Nino or a Nick Diaz Academy, you know that, okay, he hasn't had a fight, or maybe he's only had one. But look, this dude's training with beasts, and they wouldn't okay him to fight if he was not ready to fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to fight number 4, guys, which will actually be fight number 3. Don't get too confused. And that is going to be Brandon Bolden taking on Sterling Ingram. Brandon Bolden, I know for his part, his last fight was December 2018. He beat Dakari Turner, and I believe he beat him by decision. So that was in 2018. So it's been a minute since he's fought. He's 1-0, undefeated. Bay Area Fight Club, Bay Area Boxing, taking on Sterling Ingram, who's 2-0. And his last fight was Michael Green, and he TKO'd Michael Green in 1 minute of round number 2, and that was back on May 11th, just a couple weeks back. Right. So he's been a little bit more active, so to speak, than his opponent, Brandon Bolden.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good fight too. It's like it's like we go from fight to fight to fight. I'm like, yeah, that one's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one's gonna be a good one too.
And when we mentioned the guys they beat, they're both good fighters. Dakari Turner, Michael Green, both great fighters. Right. So I mean, those are some big wins there.
Right. You know, and Bay MMA's they got some really good tough guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to fight number 5, guys. Gabriel Gonzalez, William Fasaha, I believe is how we're going to say his name. And William Fasaha coming out of a gym I just mentioned, Smash Fighter. And it's funny, man, because last show I talked a little bit about Rudy Ott. And Rudy went on Facebook and was like, "Why are you talking shit about me?" And it was all in fun. But Smash Fighter, great gym. Rudy Ott, great trainer, taking on a guy out of JKD. Tell me about them.
Well, so I was at Titans Cage this last weekend, and Gabriel had a good, tough fight. You know, he's a little undersized compared to the other guy. You know, William's we're going to do a catch weight of 130 on that, so it's, or 135, he's in that range. And it should be a really good matchup. I thought Gabriel did a really, really good job at fighting this, last fight. I hit him up at the show. I said, "Hey, you want to come fight for Barrier Combat? I see your skill set. It's pretty good. I got a guy that would be a great fight for you."
So that'll be a big bantamweight fight. That's going to be a good fight, man. Both guys undefeated. Yeah. I mean, granted, 3 fights between them, but 3 victories between them. So that'll be a good fight. I apologize. That's the wrong fight. They're both 0-1.
0-1.
Yeah. I was still looking at Sterling here and Brandon.
So they're both hungry, though.
Both hungry, yeah. Smash Fighter taking on JKD, and that is in the bantamweight division. Right. Moving on from there, fight number 6, Matt Chapman, 1-1, taking on Thomas Melford, who is making his debut at 170 pounds. He's an independent fighter from Santa Cruz, taking on an El Nino guy. That's tough. That's a tough order.
Yeah, it is. So Matt Chapman, I know him. He's a tough guy. I've seen him fight. His first loss was against Sir Gregory down in 51-50 fights. Yeah. It was a really good fight. I mean, Sir Gregory has a lot of experience. I think that loss right there really turned up Matt's training camp, and he went out and won a fight after that. And he seems to be more of a stand-up, just a straight slugger. I mean, yeah. Matt's a really strong hitting guy. Thomas was down at Valley Fight Series, and he didn't get a matchup because his opponent couldn't had an issue that we couldn't. So
you were trying to help him out and say, "Look, I'll get you a fight."
I got a fight, and it's like he's more of a stand-up guy. So I'm like, yeah, this might be another good fight.
No, yeah, where they stand and bang.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about indie fighters, and a lot of the fight fans out there understand when you hear indie fighter, you don't know who they've trained with. You don't know if they've trained with anyone. Are they self-taught? Did they train with a monster and we just don't know it? You never know what you're going to get with an indie fighter. So he could come out and just be a monster, or he could come out and be timid. We don't know, but we're going to find out June 22nd. So that'll be a good fight. Moving on from there, guys, fight number 7, Christopher Fernandez was going to take on Anthony Garone. So what are we doing? Are we looking for an opponent for him at lightweight?
I actually have an opponent. I just haven't put it up yet. So,
okay. Who is it?
It's going to be up. We're going to expose the fighter to you guys later today or tomorrow. Okay,
so we haven't announced that yet. You don't want to announce that on your own podcast?
Not yet, because
that might be the best place to do it.
It would be, but
but you don't have it locked in yet. I got it. I gotcha. So either way, Christopher Fernandez will be in the building, 0-2, grind ambition, and he will be taking on someone in the lightweight division who we'll tell you guys at a later date.
Christopher Fernandez comes up and trains with Napa Valley MMA on the weekends, on Saturdays and stuff. He's shown some major improvements and stuff. I don't see him. I see him to be a real strong competitor in the future.
Okay. So there you have it. And then moving on, we got the women's MMA, and everyone's seen Valerie Thurs. After the injury, she's come back and fought well. I think she just won her last fight here at Panda Cup, right?
Yeah, it was Deborah something or other. It was a really good fight. Valerie came out and really
I think Valerie got cut too, though, right? She got hurt a little bit.
I'm not.
She posted a picture. It was pretty bloody.
Yeah, she actually came out and showed some new colors.
Yeah.
She just had a new Valerie out there.
Yeah.
She came out, kept her composure, slugged it out, and they stopped the fight.
Absolutely. So she's coming off that win, and that was just recent, by the way, this last Panda Cup.
That was at Panda Cup.
And she's taking on a newcomer, but she's coming out of Salguera, Sergio Salguera, great team. We talked about him before with with Jamario Mandango Mulder, who was going to be on the show, and unfortunately I fell through. And Carly was going to come with him, so we were going to have her on the show. I saw she did a promo for Bay Area Combat recently, did a quick little video. 215-pound scrappers. Carly told me she's ready to fight. So Valerie may have had 4 fights. Carly, this is her debut, but she's not worried.
No, you know what? And I think with Valerie's experience now, I think that this matchup's really, really good for both girls. I think that they're both. have a worthy opponent in front of each other.
Absolutely. So that'll be a good fight, guys. That's fight number 8, 115-pound division, and it is going to be Valerie Thurs taking on Carly Lombardo, and of course Valerie coming out of Marinobles. Dave Marinoble, monster down there, trains Max Griffin. You know, Aspen Ladd trains over there sometimes. So I mean, it's just, and Aspen Ladd, by the way, guys, July 13th, the UFC returns to Sacramento, and there's so many NorCal fighters on that show. Josh Emmett, Aspen Ladd's in the main event. She's going to be one of the first females to main event. Yeah. And then we've got, I believe Andre Touchy-Feely is going to be fighting on that show. Max Griffin, I think, is going to be on the show. I know Benito Lopez got a fight on that show. So you guys want to check that out.
And don't forget the main event. It's gonna, isn't it?
It's Aspen Ladd. Uriah's coming back, but he's on the co-main. So Aspen's actually headlining the show. Listen. No this has been a huge debate in Northern California. Now everyone loves Aspen. Okay, she just beat Tanya Evinger. She's a great fighter.
She's earning her way up.
She's undefeated. But Uriah Faber is the Sacramento legend. He's returning to the UFC the same night, and a lot of people are like, "Why is Uriah not the main event?" I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to play devil's advocate because Uriah's my boy, Aspen's my friend. He hasn't fought in a long time. Yeah. So to me, you give the young, hungry fighter who's beating everyone, including Tanya Evinger, who hadn't lost in 7 years at 135 pounds, who was the champion and never even relinquished her title in Invicta. So if this girl comes up and steps up and beats her, that's who you got to give the main event to. I mean, it's Sacramento. It's Aspen's hometown. She's showing out. She's undefeated. I get it. Uriah's back, but Uriah's just getting back. So
can't argue on that. That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's my opinion. Uriah, don't get pissed off at me. Well, you're always pissed off at me. All right, guys. Ryan Bozeman taking on Ryan. I believe this is
Roseman.
Oh, Ryan Roseman. These are small. Ryan Roseman taking on Ryan Bolden, 1-2 and 0-1. That's going to be in the welterweight division. UFC Gym Concord for Roseman and Valley Fight Club for Ryan. So this must be another guy you down at Valley Fights that you ran into.
Yeah, you know, it's like Bailey's one of the fight coordinators down there at Valley Fight Club, and she hit me up. I went down and seen all these guys fight, and they impressed me. Plus, they actually have a fight coordinator that's willing to bring them and travel and get them fights anywhere. You know, fight anybody anywhere, old school.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
It is.
Yeah.
Get your experience. Teach these guys how to be good professional fighters.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about this next fight. I'm going to tell you why.
It's going to be a good one.
This is my Ranger brother right here, Sean Foster. You know, we get to talk about Ranger bats a lot and being in the military, and I like this guy a lot. He just had a boxing match not too long ago, which I think he won.
He did.
Yeah, and I believe he's 1-0 in MMA. So he's going to come out. He's 31 years old, Combat Fitness Rapicon, and he's going to be taking on Adam Dennou in the middleweight division, 185 pounds. And listen, Sean's a short dude, so that's a big buff dude coming in there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what though, Adam always impresses me because you know
Absolutely.
What? You remember he fought in Vallejo down there for a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he fought so hard. I mean, I'm talking like these two guys had a good old slobber knocker. These guys had to fight of the night.
And this is one of the guys that we talk about. You look at their record and you say he's 0-2, but he's fought monsters and he's looked good in all his fights.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, man. Like you see, listen, if anybody judged Tanya Evinger on her last 2 fights, you'd be like, oh, Tanya's not good. 7 years undefeated at bantamweight, never lost her title. But then you look at her record the last 2 years and people are like, wait. So it doesn't matter if you lose fights as long as you look good. Because listen, you can't win every fight. It just can't happen.
Yeah, you know, it's like, and the thing is, like, Adam Denou's a little bit older guy too, but he brings his heart and throws it out there in the cage. And you know, Sean Foster's got his hands full.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that fight, man. I can't wait to see Sean fight. Ranger up. Now we're going to move on to fight number 11, and we're going to talk about the little bit of star power here in this fight. He's fought for us before. His brother just signed a brand new contract with the UFC for a whole bunch more money, whole bunch more fights. Max Griffin on a tear, Max Payne. His little brother, Alexander Griffin, is coming back to Bay Area Combat. He's 1-1. Of course, training with Marinobles with his brother, taking on another Salguera fighter, Osorio. And that should be a great fight right there as well.
Yes, you know, it's like
middleweights.
Osi just lost this weekend to Isaac down at the Titans cage. It was amazing. It was an amazing fight for most, but it's like, you know,
Do we mention Titans cage on this show?
Well, you know,
I don't think we do that. Do we do that? I don't think we do that.
I think I did.
Did you see the fight board? Cooley versus Korea?
I did.
It's set up. I wonder if he'll show. He's not going to show.
I'll ask. We'll put it out there. So Osi lost. Basically, you know, dude took Osi down and held on to him pretty much. He controlled him in the top position. It was in a small cage. Small cages do not benefit strikers.
Right.
So this fight, between two strikers in my cage, it should honestly get kind of bloody.
See, you know what's funny about that is I've always looked at it the other way, because if you're in a huge cage where you can run, then the striker has no chance either, because then you get him into deep water and tap him. So it just kind of depends on your fight style as well.
Well, I don't think they're going to run from each other.
No, not at all.
Alex, he did a really good job in his last fight at our show. Same with Osi. They both fought on the same previous card. They both won on it. They did an amazing job.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to talk about our next fight, and this is a guy that you guys have all seen fight several times. He's a Bay Area combat legend, belt holder, fights the best in the world, and that's Sal Osorio. And Sal Osorio is going to be taking on Solomon Valentine in the 155, and that's that 155 division that we talked about. And this is one of the guys, actually two of the guys that we talked about, Valentine and Osorio, who are just monsters in that lightweight division. Right. And Sal 5-1, only lost one fight, and that was to Julius Wright, correct? And that was on our show. So, and that's a fight that if they fought it 10 times, it might go 5-5, right?
Right. So there's something unique about this matchup is it's a California State elimination match for the 155-pound title. So whoever wins this has the opportunity at our next October show or go down south and fight for the state title.
Right. So there you go. So that's a contender fight. So basically, whoever wins that fight can write their own ticket for that California State title.
Absolutely.
And that California State title right now is held by the guy in our main event, who we'll talk about in a few minutes, Michael Bueno. We'll move on from there. After the Osorio fight, Terrence Aturn is in the building, another NorCal guy, 4-0, undefeated. People love Terrence Aturn. He's going to show up, and he's going to be fighting Andrew Cabrera, and that is the 125 title. That's the inaugural 125 title for Bay Area Combat that night. And these guys obviously got their way into this fight by being two of the best. So I believe Cabrera's had like 9 or 10 fights.
Yes, this is one of those fight records that you can't really look at his fights.
He's like 4-5 or 3-6.
I think he's got more fights than what you see on camera.
Okay.
Because he's had a lot of unsanctioned fights. He's got a lot of fights.
And he's going to be taking on Saturn, and that's going to be that title fight. So you guys got a lot of belts going right now, and I like that because you have belts for every division. So the 125 title is going to be the first time. I think the first time we're going to have a bantamweight title as well, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So and that'll be our next fight coming up, the bantamweight title. Edwin De Los Santos, another smash fighter guy, Rudy Ott's guy, taking on Jordan Vasquez out of El Nino. So El Nino is well represented on the card.
Right.
Smash fighter is well represented. Valley Fight is well represented.
Right.
Team Santos. Yep. So a lot of these guys coming from great gyms.
Right. Yeah. It's like I try to stack. Most of all, we have to supply a good entertainment for the crowd. And as far as our fight card goes, they're going to get entertained.
And in the crowd, as I've always said on this show, and I say it all the time, the crowds at Bay Area Combat are crazier than any other crowd. They come pumped up, they stay pumped up, and they leave pumped up.
Yeah.
A lot of shows, and it affects because people have like 20, 30, 40 fights. And by the time you get to the main event, everyone's like, the people who are still there are half asleep. But the way we do it with the, anywhere from 13 to 16 fights somewhere in there, the crowd just stays pumped the entire time, and the matchmaking's so good. So, So De Los Santos, Jordan Vasquez, that is the bantamweight title inaugural 135-pound belt. De Los Santos is undefeated, 2-0 out of Smash Fighter, and 4-3-1 for Jordan Vasquez. That should be a barn burner. Yeah. And I believe Vasquez is ranked number 10 right now in California. Yeah.
So for Bay Area Combat, we have a rule that we try to stick to it as far as like our title fights go. Three straight wins to qualify for a title fight. But Edwin's last fight was absolutely an executed fucking fight. I'm talking like he fought it out so hard, and he ended up getting the knockout win off that fight.
Yeah. Knockout of the night, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, that fight could have went any which way, and then he pulled off a knockout. And you know what? My hat's off to him. He fought hard, and that's why we're giving him an opportunity for the fight.
And it's not like you went and you're like, oh, he looked good, we're going to give this 0-7 fighter a fight. No, he's still 2-0. The guy's never lost a fight. He's only one fight off what we would normally do. So, it's going to be a great fight.
And he's a really, really tough competitor. He's on his way.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move into our co-main event of the evening. And this is going to be for the 145-pound title, which is currently held by a good friend of the show, Diego Bigelow, who's been on the show a few times. Whenever our guests, like sometimes our guest won't show up or can't show up, and Diego always pops in and gives us what's going on in his life. So that's going to be a good fight. Now, listen, we talk about Diego. We've talked about him on the show a million times. He's got wins over Ian Masloff. He's got wins over Cody Estes. He's just a great fighter. I think he's like 4-3 right now or something like that. But so he's going to defend his title, and this is the Bay Area Combat title, the 145 title, and he's going to be taking on Eugenio Garcia. Now, a little bit about Garcia is the guys that he's lost to are monsters as well. Sal Osorio, who we just talked about, huge guy in our division. He's lost to Charles Jelks. I think his last fight though
he got rear naked.
And he's got his wins are mostly decisions, but he does have a finish. And I think the finish is over your guy who's not showing up at the fight, Anthony Garone. I think he finished Anthony Garone with a rear naked.
Yeah.
So he does have a finish. So he can get to the ground, or he can stand and fight, or drag out the fight.
You know, what's funny is Eugenio's not necessarily a ground guy either. He trains with, he's actually a NorCal Fight Alliance fighter. He started training with those guys pretty regularly now. So it might be a different guy.
David Terrell.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good fight, and that's going to be in the 145-pound division. That's our co-main event. Now let's move on to our main event of the evening. Now this is a fight that listen, Hattersley. I want to talk a little bit about Hattersley because he hasn't fought since December, but he hasn't. I take that back. He hasn't fought in nearly a year. I think his last fight was July of last year. So he's getting real close to that year mark. But he's 3-1 in his last 4 fights. So even though he took some time off, and that could have been an injury, that could have been something personal that he was dealing with, he hasn't fought nearly a year. But his last fight, he defeated Carl Mitchell. So he is coming off of a win. As I said, 3-1 in his last 4 fights.
Carl Mitchell's got a lot of fights.
Absolutely.
He's a tough guy. I mean, really tough.
Absolutely. And this is not the Bay Area Combat title. This is the California State title, lightweight state title that we talked about. Now, his opponent, Michael Bueno, on the other side, who's also been on the show, sat right next to me. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's the current Camo state champion. He's 5-2 overall, I believe, is his record. And his last win, I believe, was a split decision right here at Bay Area Combat against Julius Wright. Yeah. So those 3 guys, man, Sal Osorio, Julius Wright, Michael Bueno, we should just make them a team and take them all over the states and just let them beat up on everybody in the 155 division. Right. Yeah. That's exactly what we should do.
You know, we're very fortunate. I think that we have, up in just the Northern California region, we have the top 155ers in the state of California.
Yeah. So what do you think, Steven? Listen, you train. You're a trainer. You fought. I fought. It has been a long time. But let me ask you this. The nearly year layoff for Hattersley against Bueno, who stays extremely active, how much is that going to affect this fight?
Well, you know, I know that Hattersley, he still trains. It's like,
right.
You know, who knows? You might get a bad case of ring rust. Who knows?
Right.
You know, until you get in there and step in that first foot, and then it's like gets all real.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our main event of the evening, guys. June 22nd. Brought to you by Bay Area Combat and Suncoast Awning. Make sure you guys check out Suncoast Awning, by the way. 2 stores, Santa Cruz and Martinez, Monterey and Santa Rosa counties. By the way, guys, you see this beanie I'm wearing, the cool shirt that my friend Steve has on.
What?
If you guys want some of this Bay Area Combat gear, I'm going to show this to you. Because what I do is I come in here and I steal this shit. But you're going to have to buy it. But you guys can come to the show. There's new towels that just came out, T-shirts, there's hoodies, hats, beanies. This beanie's dope. So make sure you guys are picking that stuff up when you come out.
Yeah, and don't forget about the IBEW, International Brotherhood Electrical Workers.
There you go.
Don't forget about them. And the people that host our weigh-ins is Downtown Joe's. Come down after the show and have some beers.
We can do the after party there too?
Hell yeah, we
are.
All right.
So you guys got to come out to the Napa Valley Expo June 22nd. 16 fights, 4 title fights. And listen, Sal Osorio, Michael Bueno, Diego Bigelow, all these guys are going to be in action. Carly Lombardo making her debut as she takes on Valerie Thurs. So listen, 4 belts on the line. The California State title is on the line. Big implications in some of the other fights. Get a chance at those California State titles. Tickets, BayAreaCombat.com. You can get them at the door, but will we have any good ones left? Who knows? Because this thing sells out. There's a lot of fans at these shows.
I have no ring sides at the day of the shows. So if you want your ring sides now, make sure you get them online.
Predictions. Okay, I need a couple of predictions.
Oh, I can't do that.
What is going to... No. I'm not going to ask you to pick a winner. I wouldn't do that to you. Although, if you were a man, you would. But I'm going to ask you, give me 2 fights that have a possibility of being fight of the night.
You know what's kind of funny is I'm going to go for the girl fight, and I'm going to go for Sean Foster.
The girl fight.
Yeah, Valerie.
Lombardo versus Thurs. That's what you want to call that, not the girl fight.
The girl fight.
And then who else?
The ladies. How's that? I think Sean Foster and Adam Dennou.
Yeah. Sean Foster coming off that boxing win, 1-0. That's going to be a good one, too. I'm looking for Sal Osorio and Solomon Valentine to be a good fight.
You know, Solomon, he fought down at the Valley Fight Series also, and that's where I actually really watched him fight. I mean, because it was right there live. He actually went up a weight class. I think he weighed in with some weights in his pocket just to make weight, and that kid fought so hard.
Yeah.
And it was a beast. I mean, I'm impressed. It's like there ain't no quit in him.
Listen, are we? I want to talk about this. So Michael Bueno, is he going to turn pro?
I don't know.
I think that's what I heard. Some rumblings that this might be his last amateur fight. I could be speaking out of turn. Don't beat me up, Michael Bueno. But I think that we're getting real close to a point where he's going to go pro.
He's had some really good wins. He's had some losses. I think he's learned an awful lot.
I mean, California state champion. You learned a lot when you win that belt. So, guys, make sure you come out. Like I said, 16 fights. We talked about some of the fights that are going to be the best fights. 4 titles on the line. The 125 title and the 135 title are going to debut that night, and we're going to find out who's going to win those belts. And then the co-main event of the evening, it is Diego Bigelow taking on Eugenio Garcia, and, of course, Hattersley and Bueno in our main event. BayAreaCombat.com, guys. Make sure you check it out. Steve, what's going on, man? Every time we come on here, you have a fight scheduled, and these guys back out. Are you ever going to fight again?
Am I?
You can fight Sean Correa. He won't fight me. Maybe he'll fight you.
I doubt he'll fight me either.
Yeah, he doesn't want to fight anybody.
Well, you know, it's like
did you go to Titans Cage?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you're a fucking
turncoat.
turncoat.
Dude, I go to all the shows. See, that's the thing that makes me different. I go to them all. Every single one of them. I don't even care if they like me or they don't like me.
What did you think of, did you get to see Anthony Joshua and Ruiz?
No.
Okay. You guys, listen, if you're at home and you haven't seen that fight, you got to go watch that fight. Ruiz came in such an underdog, short, overweight. Everybody said he had no chance. Like, the odds were astronomical, and he beat the living shit out of Anthony Joshua. So you guys got to check that out. June 22nd is our show, guys. It's going to be great. And what else? What else do we want to plug? Any other fights coming up that we need to talk about?
Well, you know, we're going to be making some big announcements here in the future for Bay Area Combat. We got some big plans going on, and
more money for your ring announcer. That's a big announcement.
If that, you know what that means? That translates to me making more money.
That's what I mean. This is the new studio, guys. We moved it a little bit. We got a new computer. Deborah's doing her job. Look at the new background. That is not us, but ours looks better, so it doesn't matter. We just don't have a picture of ours yet, but we'll get one. That's it, man. That's all we got, I think, pretty much.
So our goal, as far as our show, we're not necessarily trying to grow the audience bigger, but what we're trying to do is broaden our content, and we're going to be blasting. We're going to be putting it out there real soon. So,
listen, I think we need to get on UFC Fight Pass. That's what I think we need to do. That's my professional opinion, and I know everything. So there you go. All right, guys. Steve Barnett, the man behind the matchmaking and, of course, co-promoter of Bay Area Combat. On behalf of him, Deborah Farrellito, our producer, and, of course, the other co-owner of Bay Area Combat, myself, Jim Cooley, the voice of champions. Make sure you guys come out June 22nd, Napa Valley Expo. 16 fights, 4 title fights. It's going to be badass. 5 p.m. Get some fucking tickets, BayAreaCombat.com. We'll see you guys on the next show.